After 14 years of unschooling, would I still choose it again? So I don't have a solid yes or no answer, but I'm taking you on a journey here. So when my two daughters were young, and right now all my children are turning a different age in July. So my oldest is going to be 14, my middle is going to be 12, and my youngest is 4. So everything about this video is going to be about my older two daughters. I set out to study so many different philosophies, ways of raising children. I really latched on to the one that was called unschooling. Unschooling to me was following my children's passions and really just living life. At one point, I started calling it life schooling because unschooling just gets a bad rap. People think this, people think that. With my knowledge of unschooling and Waldorf was also a big part of my research. It lined up to what I kind of knew to be true about the school system and the ages. There's something very special about the age 7. Around age 7, a child will show you if they are ready to sit down and learn. So I kept an eye out for this. And we spent the majority of our time having fun and getting to know each other, spending time outside, going for walks. I really put a huge emphasis on being with each other, what it means to be with each other, getting to know each other. This was really easy for me to do because when we didn't get outside, when I didn't see what they were interested in, I found motherhood to be extremely challenging. So this gave me purpose, true purpose, to really pay attention to my children. I went all in on motherhood. Pay attention to my children. What are they into? And what I discovered was they love to have the freedom, which I also love. So when we did activities, it wasn't, I hated those kits where it was like, place this eyeball here and put the leg here, just instructions. No, I didn't like instructions. What I would do is I would get those big rolls of paper from IKEA, roll it out on my kitchen floor, place some paints there, sit back and watch, or sometimes, get in there with them. But they had a blast. And if you ask any mother, the freedom of these type of activities will just blossom and will extend the time you have to watch if you are looking for a break. One of the biggest things that my children and I set out to learn was reading. Oh gosh, this was such a challenging time. Reading. Learning to read, teaching them to read. And this is what I loved about unschooling and really just homeschooling. But we could set something down if it wasn't working and go out and do something else. So for me, when we bumped up against hard challenges with reading, we would just take a break. Simple as that. We would just take a break and know that we would come back to it, knowing that there wasn't really an age that they needed to learn how to read. Otherwise, this isn't going to happen or that isn't going to happen like there would be if they were in the school system. And so this is what really drew me into unschooling, drew me into homeschooling, because there was no standard this and that when they were growing up, as it really was just life. It really was just life living in those early years. So my expectations were during this time that I thought it was just going to continue like this. It was going to be kind of this back and forth, and it still kind of is, but I expected there to just be more of that. I could set something out and they would do it. We could take a break. And what actually is the reality, and it kind of switched at age 10 and beyond, especially for my oldest, there she had her own opinion. So her own opinion. So yes, I would, set things out or come up with ideas that we could learn about or go somewhere to learn or just be and do. But my daughters, they have opinions about how they want to learn and what they want to use. And really the ages, they've picked up on being with other children, especially children in the school system, and they've picked up on when did they learn to read? When did they? So comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. And it has definitely been challenging to just be around other people's influences and the way they do things and how it affects my children. Because I really do think it is that freedom-based, no real boundaries, like you must learn to read at age 5 or you can't continue on to kindergarten. There's no structures like that with how I set out in the beginning. Now there's definitely structures only because my children want them. So around age 10, 11, my oldest daughter had a friend who was doing curriculum. That's what she wanted to do now. So I was like, okay. And we bought the curriculum. I stepped back because honestly, whenever I came in and was like, what are you doing today? And just kind of made my own list and wanted to make a plan with her, she was like, Mom, I have my own list. I have my own plan. Please. So that was amazing to witness her first year doing curriculum, her first real year. What grade was this? 6th grade. I want to say this was 6th grade. My middle daughter was still doing organic conscious learning. Nothing was really boxed in with subjects. It was all very organic in the way that unschooling presents itself, which is really beautiful, what I was attracted to. I ended up putting my middle daughter in curriculum, the same type, Oak Meadow, 5th grade. She discovered that she knew a lot of it already due to unschooling. And a lot of the time that we spent in the forest, in the woods, she discovered she knew so much about science. Whatever was in 5th grade science, she was like, wow, I learned this already. So that was really great to see that just a little blip of like regular living does have its payoffs with children and not having to separate everything in boxes. What also was really challenging that was different from when they were younger to now is when they were younger, I would present an idea because I was watching them and I could kind of see these patterns of, ooh, let me bring this up to them. I bet they're going to love it. I bet they're going to like be so gung-ho. Let's go do it. And it was when they were little. But oh my gosh, one of my daughters is just, so when she learned how to read, she blossomed. I actually said these words today because she was needing to work on some math, but she cannot put down books. This girl reads 500-page books in 3 days. She reads like no other. I actually don't even think I know another kid who reads as much as my oldest daughter does. So true testament to like one of the biggest challenges as a mother in her life was getting her to learn how to read has now become this gift. And she wants to be a published author by 17. But anyways, the difference between in that area from when they were younger to now is I will see these threads and I have to be okay with them being like, no, Ma, that's not for me. Because I've had this idea about, what if we do some type of magazine where you review books that you've read? She has read so many books that I'm like, let's get this out there. But, I have to remember that it's not up to me. And also be okay with having these ideas, seeing them, presenting them, and being okay with her being like, nah, I'm not into that. I just want to read my books. And knowing her and how she has been through the last bit of years, she comes back a little bit later like, oh my gosh, I had this idea and I'm doing this. And it's really amazing. And I just have to stand back and watch. So with unschooling, where we kind of stopped unschooling around 10 years old, even though she was choosing to do curriculum, I still considered it unschooling. I don't know what the frick we're doing right now. I don't even know if I want to identify it. Sometimes I just throw unschooling out there because I know it's going to click with the people who I'm talking to or want to talk to, want to magnetize towards me and this message. But who knows what we're doing right now. I have a 4-year-old, and it's also extremely different because now he has older siblings. So they love to sit down with him and teach him about letters and numbers and everything, which is really great in a fun way with songs and games. And I love that. So 14 years ago, when I made this decision to identify with unschooling, the main goal I wanted to have was to have this connection, to build this relationship with my children. And I have done that. I have done that. To know that they have the freedom and options to choose. But also, on the other hand, I live in Connecticut, so our laws have changed, and we're preparing to prove that we are doing school at home, school, categorized school, which is fine. We've been doing curriculum for 3 years now, and we are just getting our ducks in order to prepare to show this to our school district or however that ends up landing. Don't ask me about the laws that just got changed because I still need to look into them. They don't go into effect, I think, until 2027 in June. Even though I set out 14 years ago to have this idea of my life be with my kids, we have done it. We have done it. The deeper stuff we have done. I also really love this idea that our children choose us for any possible reason. You know that story of like when babies or souls are up above and they look down and they choose their parents. I fully believe that our children come to us for our own growth, for their own growth, for family stuff, just very specific things. And for me, one of my biggest lessons for choosing to unschool, choosing to set out in this way with my kids, and it's all about the journey that brought me here. Like 14, like my daughter's turning 14 at the end of this month. And am I proud of myself? Am I proud of myself and the choices I've made these last 14 years? Hell yes. Hell yes. I feel like I know my children on such a deep level. We have fun. We laugh. Oh my gosh, it is the greatest. No holding back. And I also know there's another little tidbit too. If you've ever set out to heal your own childhood, you might understand this. But I know that when my kids are not kids anymore, so when they're 18, 20, they are going to look back on their childhood and they're going to question why we did things the way we did. And I want to, and I already am, we actually already have these conversations, so it's really good for me. I already know my experience as a mother and knowing that my children are probably going to say things like, why did we do this? I wish we didn't do this. Oh, I really like just different types of childhood. I know that through my own experience of going through my childhood stories, that this is always going to be the case. There is no setting out to be the perfect parent because this is a relationship that we are having with our kids. There is no doing the perfect parenting way, which is what I probably set out to do when my children were young. Hence the research, the years of research, the years of study, learning, breastfeeding was best, that co-sleeping would solve my problem of my children waking up in the middle of the night and scared that they couldn't find me, or just very simple daily things that I changed because of knowing better, do better. But landing in the soft spot of being okay with myself, with choosing a way of being and raising my kids educationally and just life ways, I have no idea if they're going to come back and hate me for it. And I have to be okay with that. I want to be okay with that. I want to hear that and have conversation around it and maybe get to witness what they choose to do with their own children. Everything I'm really circling right now in the unschooling sense is, do my kids have a sense of self? Do my kids have a sense of being? Do they have choices? Can they make choices? Can they be who they are? That was the bottom line that kind of grew from that 10-year-old area. I started to witness them be who they decided to be. There's a big switch that happens, I think, before preteen, where like one of my oldest daughter was, I dressed her girly and fun. The girl stuff, the first daughter, the bows in her hair. She looks back on this and laughs. There was a time before preteen and even maybe before 10 where they made that very distinguished switch. I don't want to wear these clothes. These are the clothes I want to wear. I don't want to have my hair like this. This is the way I want my hair. So my personal story growing up in that time with my own mom was not met with the same way that I'm showing up today. And that is definitely what fuels me and what attracted me to the unschooling identity philosophy was children got to have their own choices. When they wanted to stop doing something, they could and start something else or take a break completely. If they wanted to stop wearing something and wanted to wear something else, they were able to do that. We also have a lot of conversations about that. I have videos online about how my kids played Roblox. They played video games. We had conversations. I just didn't ban it from our house. So the biggest thing for me was that attracted me as well for unschooling and setting out to do the unschooling way was that it built this relationship that I missed out on as a child. I was a child where things were banned in my house. I was a child where I was not allowed to wear the clothes I wanted to wear. I was a child who was not allowed to experiment with makeup. What else? So many things. I was a child who was grounded throughout my whole childhood. I was a child who wasn't allowed to go outside at certain times or the majority of the time. I don't know. I just got like this underlying feeling that outside was unsafe for some reason. This set me up to find a way where I would not just be setting these boundaries in place without conversation with the one that I was setting these with. So would I choose unschooling again? Yes, I would choose unschooling again in this very specific niche way. And let me know if this is how you perceive unschooling. If you unschool and this is how or why you were attracted to it as well. I'm sure there's some of you out there. I would love other points of views as well because this is my interpretation of unschooling. My oldest daughter, when I showed her, this whole video is coming from that trend I did on Instagram where it was Netflix documentary series with the Netflix theme song in the background. And I sit down with my daughter and I'm like, unschooling, would we still choose it again? My daughter says that we're not unschooling. And like I said, I was getting the feeling that I really can't call it unschooling. It's really more like conscious living with children, conscious living in general. I learned to stop reacting and interrupt that loop with how can I respond here? How can I have this conversation instead of just shutting it completely down with a rule? That is what I wanted to set out to do. And I've done it. Good job, Crystal. This has changed me. This has changed me as a person. I went from someone who held stories of my childhood, like, how could this be, And then I set out to change the cycle and not just rebel against the way my mom parented me, but to choose a different path that was more present life, like what's happening presently that I can respond to. What's happening presently that, like I just said, like I'm not just laying a rule down, but we're having a conversation about it. And this has changed me as a person because I'm showing up differently to not just my children, but to the people around me, to my husband, even, that we'll get into. Well, I'll be talking so much more about this, but I'll end here that 14 years of unschooling, homeschooling, conscious living, I would 100% choose this again. 100%. And I would kind of make a note in my brain, especially those of you out there who have younger kids, that I have seen there is a switch where they are deciding how they want to live. So if you're going the unschooling route in the beginning, awesome. Like, get out there, enjoy your freedom, enjoy your time, getting to know your kids. But I do feel like there might be a time where they are ready to get to work. They are ready. Let's do this. Let's start this learning book-wise, especially with the influence of other people out there. All right, thank you for joining me today and listening to me talk about unschooling for the last 14 years. Bye.